We got to talk about Ben Simmons, man.
Ben Simmons.
All right, we have to talk about Ben Simmons because I genuinely feel like people have just given up on him. I genuinely feel like people have given up on him. Especially because I think he's injured again. He's injured again. He has a back injury right now. So far this season, he's only played 6 games. And even in those 6 games, people saw improvement. People did saw improvement. He was playing better defensively. He was running the court a little bit better. But is this who Ben Simmons is anymore? At this point? Just a 6 to 8 point per game scorer? What happened to the game I love, man? I remember this Ben Simmons like it was yesterday. 17 points per game, DPOY caliber player, unstoppable going downhill when he gets downhill. Hey, shout out the Hoop Reports for the video. Let's have this discussion about Big Ben, man.
Ben Simmons is the most disappointing player the NBA has seen in the last decade. He's not a bad player. He's not a bust. But when you're looking at the combination of size, talent, and potential, he's by far the most disappointing player the NBA has seen over the last 10 years. I mean, listen to these clips on what people thought Ben Simmons was going to become.
Those guys, these are the future of the NBA. And, the NBA is in great hands with Ben. And
he is LeBron James 2.0. Or part 2, whatever way you want to put it.
That's
the
crazy.
NBA is
That's
in great
crazy.
hands with Ben.
Chat,
he is
that's
LeBron
crazy.
James 2.0. Talk about bad takes.
Okay, so this is the discussion what I like to have. I always like to have with the bus conversation. Pause. What does a bus mean, and what is the maximum threshold for what you need to do to be a bust? Because again, we just saw clips, and I remember the time when Ben Simmons got drafted into the league. It sounds crazy now, but again, if you were there during that time, people were hyping up Ben Simmons. He was a unanimous number 1 overall draft pick going into that draft. Based off of what everyone was seeing, the hype made sense. This dude was a 6'10" point guard that can facilitate and has a passing ability like he was one of the best passers in the league, which he proved coming into the NBA. And then he proved that he can also be one of the best defenders in the league. He had a pretty strong rim presence. From all of the accounts, Ben Simmons was looking like a bona fide franchise player in this league. Bona fide franchise player in this league. And the career that he had still consists of 3 All-Star appearances, still consists of 2 All-Defensive teams, and still consists of 1 All-NBA appearance. Not a lot of players in history can say that they got 3 All-Star appearances, 2 All-Defensive teams, a Rookie of the Year, and an All-NBA appearance. Not a lot of players can say that. However, based off of what he was supposed to be, before James Harden and Joel Embiid came together, before Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid came together, it was supposed to be Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid taking over not only the Eastern Conference, but the league. What they were doing in 2018 was them being ahead of the curve. It wasn't supposed to come that quick for Philly, but it did. Teams were scared to match up with that 2018 Philadelphia 76ers team until Al Horford busted that ass. Right? Until Al Horford busted that ass. And we won't forget that. Until Brad Stevens really exposed Ben Simmons for his weaknesses. And now here we are in year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If we start here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We are now in year 8. Ben Simmons is an injury-prone player. Ben Simmons can't even score 10 points a game. Ben Simmons has questions about, his motor and love for the game. And there's questions about, hey, Ben Simmons he's never going to get back to that All-NBA player that we ever saw. By year 8. So my question is, would y'all consider that type of career a bust? Because again, Ben Simmons was one of those dudes that had extremely high expectations. And I'm not the biggest draft guy. I don't dig into prospects as much as other people. But I feel like there's a level of, all right, literally everyone is saying he's the unanimous #1 pick. And if you pass up on him, it's a 2-man draft. Brandon Ingram has no argument over Ben Simmons unless it's for fit purposes. I don't know. I feel like at that point, when the whole world is literally saying you're the next guy up, I, even as the casual, can surmise that, okay, you have extremely high potential. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Let me know if y'all think that's a bust though. But we're just getting started.
It's crazy how in just a few short years, the #1 overall pick from 2016 has gone from becoming a possible future face of the league to becoming possibly out of the league. And that's both sad
8 years.
and true. With the way things are looking today, Ben Simmons' NBA career may actually be over. The start of the 2022 season was where things started to really go downhill for Ben Simmons' career. He had bad blood with the 76ers, wasn't participating in team practices. Then, when they started to withhold his payments, he cited mental health issues. Then, when he was finally traded to the Brooklyn Nets, instead of playing games, he was dressed up as Willy Wonka and sitting on the bench during the playoffs when his team needed him, and this is how the NBA felt about him at the time.
Ben Simmons might also be the weakest, most pathetic excuse for a professional athlete we have ever seen in not just American history, but the history of sports.
Oh, wow.
Ben Simmons eventually got back surgery, which got the heat off him a bit. Then a few weeks later into rehab, Simmons posted on Instagram saying that he was feeling incredible. At around that point, Ben had the entire NBA world believing that they did him dirty and that a revenge season was on its way.
He's ready to go. He swears he's ready to.
So, Young Gross on YouTube says, so if Bron had the same career as Ben, we calling him a bust? And that's the question I want to pose. Because I think there's clear busts in NBA history, right? Like Adam Morrison bust. Kwame Brown bust. #1 overall draft picks that could not average 10 points a game and was straight bums relative to the NBA. But I think there's this second level of like, okay, you weren't ass. You weren't ass at all. In the case of Ben Simmons, you were an all-NBA caliber player at your peak. But what we expected from you was top 50 player of all time, right? That type of performance. What we expected from you was to be a franchise cornerstone of this franchise for the next decade. What we expected from you was a level of production that gave us security in terms of, yo, you are our guy to build around for a championship. You and Joel Embiid, you were supposed to be that guy. And for that dude, by year 8 to be hella injury prone to the point where he is sitting out whole seasons or not being able to play 50 to 60 games every single season, and as a dude who can't even average 10 points a game when you are capable and showed capability of averaging 18, 19 points a game. I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm going to be honest. I'm leaning towards bust, but I don't know. Like, I've kind of given that up on Andrew Wiggins' part as well. I think he's had a solid enough career, even as a #1 pick, to just say, hey, he wasn't a bust. But for Ben Simmons, dog, like, Jeez, I don't know, man. I don't know.
To go, I'm rooting for the brother.
Like, I think I could genuinely make an argument that Andrew Wiggins has had a better career than Ben Simmons. I think that's the difference. That's the difference between those two. But
personally, after hearing his interview on the JJ Redick podcast, I too became a believer in Ben. I thought he was going to make the NBA great again. Well, that didn't happen. Points, rebounds, assists, all around the board, Ben was worse. Heck, he even played better in his rookie season. Then just halfway into the 2023 season, deja vu happened. Another back injury, and he was out again for the entire year. At about this time, a Reddit user actually guessed correctly that Ben's about to put out some crazy empty gym videos this offseason. And lo and behold, the offseason came, and just like the fan had guessed, Ben started posting his offseason workouts on his socials. Then, just like this other fan had predicted, his annual routine has started again. Ben Simmons looks great this offseason. Ben Simmons put up great numbers the first few games. Ben Simmons is injured and will miss some time. Ben Simmons requires surgery. So, just 6 games into the 2024 season, after putting up a few near triple-doubles, Ben Simmons was diagnosed with another lower back injury and just had an epidural injection, which is a type of anesthesia to stop pain signals from traveling from the spine to the brain. What an accurate prediction.
Isn't that crazy?
And this is just the first reason why Ben Simmons' NBA career may be over. Perhaps his body just can't take it anymore. This is now the 3rd year in a row that he's had some type of lower back injury. And while I'm not a doctor or an expert on human anatomy, I do know that lower back injuries are a major concern, especially in sports.
They use epidurals for birth. He must be in hell. No, that's bad.
Especially if it's a reoccurring theme. And especially if his job description includes guarding 7-foot behemoths like Giannis Antetokounmpo and Joel Embiid on a nightly basis. Ben is currently 27 years old. He's not exactly old, but he's not exactly a spring chicken anymore either. With his style of physical play, can his body hold up? And this leads me to point number 2, why Ben Simmons' career may be over. Does Ben even want his body to hold up? Does Ben still want to hoop? I mean, he signed a 4-year, $26 million contract when he was just a rookie. Then back in 2019, he signed a max rookie extension of $177 million. Whichever way you look at it, Ben has done amazing financially and has earned generational wealth.
And that's fully guaranteed
money, too.
Perhaps
he's just one of those players that disappears once he gets the bag. Like, why else would he not develop a jump shot? Kobe Bryant even warned him a few years ago about this.
Well, he's got to get a jump shot.
As of today, after 8 years of being drafted into the league, Ben still doesn't have an NBA jump shot. I mean, look here. This is Ben's shot chart for the 2024 season. I know it's only 6 games, but look, he's only taken 1 shot from outside the painted area, and that shot was just barely.
Bro, that is crazy. This is crazy. He's giving up on it. But so I think that's the catch-22 though, with people who can't shoot and trying to learn a jump shot. It's a learning curve, right? For most people, you can't just spend 1 offseason and go from a dude who does not shoot threes to a dude who shoots 37% from 3. That's just not gonna happen. So, but you have to shoot in game to find out if you can actually shoot threes, right? So for Ben Simmons, I understand at some point he needs to shoot. But would you want someone who can't shoot threes to shoot threes? You know what I'm saying? And I guess these are things that you just find out in practice. But we also know that how you shoot in practice is not how you shoot in games. Like Shaq has had stories of like, yo, if I'm shooting free throws in practice, I don't miss. But once I get into a game, that shit goes down to 50%. We've seen clips of Mitchell Robinson hitting 8 threes in a fucking row like it's nothing, but we all know Mitchell Robinson shouldn't be shooting threes in a game. And I think for Ben Simmons, that's the same thing. If we had a shootout right now, I think Ben Simmons could outshoot me. No cap. If we had a shootout right now, 3-point shootout, 3-point contest, I think Ben Simmons could outshoot a lot of motherfuckers in chat right now. But in a game, it's a difference. It's a difference.
Outside the painted area. The crazy thing is, it's not just the jump shot either. Look at this play here where he refused to take advantage of a good roll to the rim and instead went for the pass, which resulted in a turnover instead. The commentators were just as perplexed as I was.
Wait, what?
Look at this play here where he refused to take advantage of a good roll to the rim and instead went for the pass.
Is that not the right play? I mean, I guess the problem is he went straight to pass first. If he tried to go up and saw Nick Claxton cutting and in midair dumped it off to Nick Claxton, I think that would have been a better play. But it's not the worst play in the world, though.
Pass, which resulted in a turnover instead.
Nick Claxton
The
needs better
commentators
hands.
were just as perplexed as I was.
Nick Claxton needs better hands.
Why not? Yeah, why not take it?
Blue Cornett was about to block that shit. What the fuck?
And even if you miss.
This really raises the question of whether or not he still even wants to play in the NBA. Because with the way teams in the league are structured now, if you can't shoot, you're a liability. And if you're a liability, why should you be on the court? I mean, look at how they're guarding him. In this play here where Simmons has the ball on the perimeter,
I don't agree with that last statement too. I think there's a way for you to be a non-shooter and be effective on the court. It just makes things a little bit harder. But like Russ has been able to provide value while not being able to shoot. You know what I'm saying? Draymond Green has been able to provide value without being able to shoot. You just have to be a defensive monster. Like deadass, you gonna have to be a defensive monster, which I do think Ben Simmons is capable of. And I think his value would go up if Nick Claxton was a shooter as well. I think the problem is Nick Claxton is also valuable on the defensive end to the point where he needs to start. But starting Ben Simmons and Nick Claxton, two non-spacers on your team, that's the bad part. That's the bad part.
Bobby Portis is literally standing by the elbow and clogging the paint, making the defense that much tighter because Ben can't shoot. It got so bad to the point where Ben's teammates were screaming at him to shoot the ball.
Now Irving sees a seam, drops it off, Simmons dishes.
So look, as of now, we're not sure if Ben's back can continue to handle the rigors of the NBA. We're not sure if he even wants to play in the NBA. And even if he wants to play in the NBA, we're not sure if his inability to shoot even justifies having him on the floor. Now, the million-dollar question is, can Ben Simmons reinvent himself? Can he learn how to be effective again? Can he learn how to stay healthy? Can he learn how to shoot a jump shot?
This dude bleep.
Well, I personally don't think so. And this scouting report by Jonathan Givony sums it up pretty well. Lack of competitiveness in crucial games, questions about his character, he needs things to revolve around him, closed-minded to coaching or instruction. This was a report written about him back in 2016, and it seems to be an accurate description of what we're seeing from him today.
Well,
Doc Rivers recently went into it a little bit too.
Ben was frustrated in a whole different way. You know, just the mental part, the health part, the injury part, you know, just the work.
yo, Doc is crazy. Ben was just frustrating in a different way. It was the mental part, the health part, the work ethic part, his will to win part, his willingness to shoot part. Yo, Doc Rivers is crazy.
Work ethic part.
Given his reputation, which is coming from multiple different sources, Ben doesn't seem to be the type of player who will change much in the next 2 to 3 years, and the bad news for him is that his contract is over after 2020.
T-Bird, a different way. Every way. every single way. Every single way. It was frustrating in a different way. All right, Doc.
5. Given his current injury and probability for future injuries, what kind of team is going to want to pick him up? And how much does Ben want in terms of financial incentives? He's for sure not getting a max contract, but is he even worth a mid-level contract? One ex-NBA player is saying that he's only worth the vet
Is that
minimum
Gordelli?
now.
Brick Gordelli in the
And
building?
even that's a gamble. I mean, if he stops playing basketball mid-season for whatever reasons, that's a wasted roster spot and a tainted locker room. On the other side of the coin, what kind of rebuilding teams are going to want to pick up a 29-year-old Ben who's had multiple lower back injuries? This is sports, and while anything could happen, it doesn't look good for Ben at this point. What we're seeing from him today could very well be the beginning of the end of a once promising NBA career.
Yeah, no, it's definitely sad. Definitely sad. Because I think at this point, the concern to me isn't even his play. I think you can find a spot, even if Ben Simmons is just 7 points a game, 5 assists, 10 rebounds. If that is him, good defensively. Not a great rim protector, but more so like a POA defender. If that's him, I think there's a spot for him in the league. But if his injuries can't hold up, I think that's the biggest part. The work ethic thing, hey, I can't speak on that. But yeah, it's the injuries part. He can't stay healthy.